Public school staff member wears blackface to protest vaccine mandates. Jimmy Kimmel and the governor of Virginia could not be reached for comment. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show. I am he is me. As you know, we are that only program that keeps you educated on the craziness of back to K-12 classrooms and those pesky college campuses around the world. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66%. That's a lot of percent at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke, D-R-D-U-K-E. Again, save up to 66% when you use the code Dr. Duke. Today we start at an elementary school in Oregon, where a special ed teacher was recently fired after she showed up to school in blackface to protest vaccine mandates for all staff. But the teacher says there's much more to the story. There better be a whole heck of a lot more behind this story if you think you're going to be able to show up in blackface. It's just a bad move. It would be like showing up in a Ku Klux Klan gown to protest racism. Whatever you think you mean, and we've got a second show that's going to deal a little bit about that issue. Whatever you think you mean, when you slap on the blackface, you better realize it doesn't matter what your intentions are. The mob is going to be drawn to you like a zombie to brains.
Zombie to brains. It is that time of year. I guess we're getting into zombie to brains time. The teacher in question is a special ed assistant named Lauren Pefferle, and she said, as we'll see in the news clip we're about to show you, that she basically has had enough of what's happening in her school regarding vaccination versus unvaccination.
And mandates.
And mandates versus mandates. So, again, as you said, blackface, maybe not the way to go, but she was trying to make a point, kind of comparing what's happening with mandatory vaccinations and how it feels to be the unvaccinated in the school.
Yeah, and this won't come up in her interview, but later in the story we'll learn, in her mind, she thinks she's trying to become the second Rosa Parks. She wanted to wear blackface as an honor to Rosa Parks, she says in one interview, and she wants to be a pioneer, the first one to use this image to stand up and become the second Rosa Parks, to bring freedom to people from these, I agree, constitutionally illegal mandates. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Other unvaccinated staff were being told by the Newburgh School District administration leads that we could not work with students unless we were 6 feet apart, starting right away, starting Thursday afternoon. And so I was on my way to lunch. I took my lunch and I processed this, and I was thinking that this is segregation. So on Friday, September 17th, I showed up to school and I put on some dark makeup on the parts that were showing my skin, including my hands. And I came in hopes to represent Rosa Parks, who I admire for standing up during her time when segregation was taking place. And I felt like I and others who are unvaccinated were starting to experience segregation.
Now, I understand that she's in a conundrum. Like, what do you do if you're in that situation? Especially considering she's a special education assistant at an elementary school. And if you're required then to be 6 feet apart, you can't do that if you're in a special education setting. Many of the students, depending on what they're classified as, I guess, is what disability that they have been given. You can't actually be physically that far apart because the student may need you to be close to them, to calm them down, to help them, to guide them. And so I get where she's coming from with that. Now, how she went from that to just blackface, I don't understand what went through her mind, other than I guess she knows about Rosa Parks. But that still, it's she could use the Jimmy Kimmel excuse or the Governor Northam excuse, but if she doesn't side with if she's saying she's unvaccinated and won't get vaccinated, it's not going to help her at this point.
No, it is an odd parallel. Although you think about what our education system has become, it's been one more racial grievance being attacked after another. It's all been about being woke, being social justice warriors. Couldn't you make an argument in a culture? And I'm not doing this trying to excuse her, but you got to figure this would happen sooner or later. I mean, in a culture where all you talk about how is everything is white supremacist, African Americans are innocent victims and the only hope for our future humanity by upturning the system and completely eradicating everything that came before. I mean, if you want, clearly it's a very serious issue for her. It is a serious issue. I wouldn't go so far to call it segregation as much as I would call it anti-scientific garbage. How many articles have we seen now that talk about, another one just came out this last week, that the 6 feet rule was completely and utterly arbitrarily made up. It had no scientific basis. It had never been tested. And anybody who knows anything about really serious viruses know that's ridiculous. 6 feet is nothing. You cough, what, 35 feet? What you expel when you cough can travel across a very big room. Not have to worry about 6 feet. But I get this, what woman she's trying to say. The only real avenue we have to express our contempt anymore is the very narrowing African American way of seeing things. So maybe in her own way she felt, I'm going to use this, I'm going to emulate one of my black heroes because I won't be listened to otherwise. I think it's a wrong-headed, but given where we're going in the public schools, it's not as outrageous as you would think.
Well, and it didn't cause, physical harm to anyone else, and it didn't cause actual distress from what we can see to anyone else. But it does make you wonder, she went, she took this avenue. What could other people have done? How much more distracting or distraught or destructive could it have been had she decided to say,
well, but if you're
forget whatever you want.
If you're part of the liberal social justice organizations that run these schools, and I include teachers' unions in those, you have been marketing this, right? That white people have no voice that they should be allowed to use, that white people need to shut up, that if you're not black or not at least minority, then we're not going to take anything you say seriously. She has something very serious, and she's right about again, I don't call it segregation, but it's a serious abuse of what science pretends to be. But when you find yourself being white on these these high school, middle school, elementary, in this case, campuses, what can you do? The only legitimate voice, we're told, is the minority voice. And if you're not one, then you're already dismissed before you talk. So it's a foolish thing. She shouldn't have done it in the end. Well, hopefully they won't fire her for this. Maybe they will. But if they do, it should not surprise her. If she's spending time in elementary schools, spending time in the public schools, and not to be aware of the consequence of this is probably her biggest mistake.
Before we move on, just a very, very quick reminder that the best way to access our content is to download the Freedom Project Media app. Simply search Freedom Project in your app store, download, make sure you allow for notifications, and then put a nice big smile on your face. Also, if you like listening to the audio podcast, we are available on Apple, Google, SoundCloud, and everywhere else. Lack of perspective. It continues now, as it always does, with a teacher who did not think, and therefore he decided, I'm going to call a student a piece of manure for not wearing a mask properly. You don't wear a mask properly, you are a piece of manure. But not actually manure, he used the S word. This happened on September 5th when a video was posted by the popular Libs of TikTok Twitter account. So if you want to check out that, if you're on the Twitter and want to look at some TikTok on the Twitter, check out Libs of TikTok, apparently. They exposed an alleged encounter between a teacher and a student. The video allegedly shows, and by allegedly, I mean it does show, a teacher confronting a student for wearing his mask improperly. And in the caption of the video, it said, "My friend had his mask under his nose, and this Karen went crazy. Got up in his face and..." It's supposed to be cussed, but he spelled it wrong. Cussed at him. Let's just watch this video.
You're playing? Are you playing? No, I'm not. Oh. Otherwise, I will call the police. Oh. I'm serious. Oh, here, Mikey. Yeah, come on. Oh, you're serious? Yeah, I am serious, man. I am had enough of it. I knew you were going to take off your mask the moment I turned the corner. So enjoy BIA. That's in-school suspension where you have to sit in the room with the military guy all day because you're a piece of
Now, point of order. We have created the word, I didn't, somebody, the culture created the word Karen to denote a white woman who is uppity and irrational and racist. We, of course, recognizing equal equality, we came up with the word Shaniqua for a black woman who does the same thing. Now, we have to come up, Katie, with a name for a white male, skinny jeans wearing dude who acts like a Karen.
And as you can see, if you zoom in very closely, our friend Scott also has his mask pulled down under his nose while he yelled at our friend, the high school student who didn't know what this supposed jail was, detention center that Scott was so excited to tell him about. That's where you're going to spend all day. That's when you have to sit there in detention all day and apparently not go to class and get an education, because would you get an education if you were in that class? Maybe this is actually a better thing. Maybe Scott was doing the student a favor by allowing him to sit in detention all day long.
I think you just solved the problem. The name is Scotty. Scotty.
Scotty.
A Scotty is a white male Karen as opposed to a black female Karen named Shaniqua. So he's a Scotty. And for let's just give him an informal last name, Scotty Skinny Jeans. That is the male Karen. And there you see him here. And the thing that gets me, we have had when was the last time you heard a nurse freak out on a patient like this? When was the last time you heard a waitress freak out at somebody ordering a hamburger without a mask? Where's the last time you have heard all these frontline workers who've dealt with people not wearing masks when they're supposed to, dealt with masks not being correctly put on? This is a daily event for most frontline workers. Why is it that teachers absolutely crumble into shuddering little piles of dust when they're confronted with this problem? What is the question I'm asking broader? What is the fragility that comes with being a teacher, particularly a public school teacher? Where, as somebody with a public school teaching degree, where does that fragility come from? Where do Scotty Skinny Jeans come from?
Well, as you're coddled all the way
through education,
K through 12, all the way through your bachelor's, all the way back into another classroom. There's a lot of comfort going on all the way through. They don't have the hard knocks. They didn't get a little tough skin. It's all soft. Everything's soft about them.
Just a bunch of...
It is happening. But I want to be clear here so no one yells at us. Supposedly, Scott has resigned. But I don't know that, again, we don't know that it was Scott, even though everyone else has said it was Scott. But I'll give you the official statement. John Mensick, who's the principal of Glenbard North High School in Carroll Stream, Illinois, does not identify the employee as a teacher, but says that the staff member involved in the incident has resigned and will no longer be working in District 87 because he's too busy working in District 1, Hunger Games.
With those pants, he should be working at Old Navy.
Wouldn't
that be the perfect job for a Scotty Skinny Jeans?
Or Gap, which is the same company, Banana Republic. They're all the same company.
I almost think something about Old Navy. He needs to be working at an Old Navy. That's about his speed. And when little tween girls come in to get their little jeans, he can go all ballistic on them. What do you say?
Well, as if today's episode of teachers being cray-cray and saying things they shouldn't and just it all being weird, we have yet another example. This time we're in Nebraska, smack dab center of the country, where a teacher was put on leave after making the comparison of the KKK to anti-maskers. Oh, people, and your historical attempts, references, it's just not working for you.
Let's be clear.
Please stop.
She's not clever enough to have invented this meme. She just said it.
Oh, for sure.
Right. The idea
Absolutely. I understand.
There was the idea that there was enough clever in the brain of this public school teacher to come up with this, because it's kind of a neat little burn, isn't it? You've got a man in a Klan hat, a hood. Isn't it strange, the meme says, they can breathe in this, but not in this. And so, of course, whoever created this meme is suggesting that all non-vaxxers are the equal of the Ku Klux Klan. Stupid, childish, bigoted, ignorant. That as wrong-headed as that is, because I would argue that it's the actual mask people who are behaving like the Klan, the mask mandators who see only one way of doing this, who want to destroy anybody who doesn't see it their way. That's much more Klan than it is the rest of us. But be that as it may, our school teacher, was not clever enough to have created it. She just forwarded it. And there's no doubt about what it means.
This incident actually happened way back in August, and we're getting to it now, and it's in Elkhorn Public School District, and that's roughly in the burbs of the Omaha area. Now, it's specifically at the Hill Rise Elementary School, and the meme was actually reposted on Facebook, and you saw what it looked like, and you saw what it said. And let's take a look at what one parent, Ann Mao, had to say about it.
Elkhorn parents like Ann Mao are frustrated. It's after this post began circulating on Facebook. It was reposted by a teacher at an elementary school in the district.
I believe in any teacher having their own personal beliefs, but when that belief is so strong and comparing our constitutional rights to a hate group, that is not going to be tolerated.
I spoke with the teacher who says there are some clarifications to be made. She tells me she's anti-racist and the post was meant to call KKK members who are anti-maskers hypocrites. She also tells us that her opinions are outside of the classroom. She says, "I love my job. My opinions are not part of my job."
Now, two statements she's trying to do to exonerate herself. Number one is bull, BS. You're signaling out the Ku Klux Klan for not wearing masks. Really? You're gonna, of all the things you can go after the Klan for, you're going after them from not wearing masks. It doesn't fly. It does not fly. You're pretending you did not like the illusion, the alignment of non-vaxxers and Klanmen. Just admit that, because that is BS and you know it. But the second thing is probably true. You did it on your own time. In fact, somebody else brought it to the attention or forwarded it at the school level, right? So my question is, this woman did this on her own time, in her own private space. It's stupid and foolish, but I don't think it rises to the level of discipline. Meanwhile, somebody else, potentially in the school, sent it to the school. So wouldn't the person who sent it be the one who's the bigger problem? Because then they made it a school issue, especially if they sent it around the school, which we don't know.
And at the time of the story, at Elkhorn Public Schools, they had masks being optional but strongly recommended for both students and staff. And as the official response coming out from the school, which hasn't changed to my knowledge because I couldn't find any response coming out from it, Elkhorn Public Schools was made aware of the referenced social media post, and the teacher was placed on administrative leave as they investigate the matter. Notably, the stated views were expressed on the individual's personal social media account. Again, they're even acknowledging it in their official statement. And because that person did it then, the fact that they're going into, I don't know even what they investigate on that. Well, that's what's going to become of that, if anything becomes of it.
Yeah, that's administrative leave, which means you're getting paid to sit on your butt for a couple of days until it blows over, and then we say, this is America, it's your social media, you have a right to post what you want, but be careful, this will come back to bite you. That's all there is to it. And meanwhile, she'll be fine. But quit lying for convenience. You knew when you posted that you in your own little warped mind do believe that anybody who refuses to wear a mask, even in the schools like where it wasn't required, is kind of like the Klan. You're a Libby, we get it. Just roll with it. Time now for Instant Classics, and we're reveling, at least I am, in Fyodor Dostoevsky week. 5 great quotes in 5 great days on the great Russian novelist about his great novel, The Brothers Karamazov, which I think is the greatest novel ever written. How many greats can I work in there? Yeah, that's what I think about this particular author. Dostoevsky, Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky. He was a Russian novelist, short story writer, essayist, and journalist. Dostoevsky's work explores human psychology in the troubled political, social, and spiritual atmospheres of 19th century Russia. And Dostoevsky really engages with a variety of of philosophical and religious themes. He is our great defender of Christianity. I think in the last 250 years, he's the single greatest defender of Christianity. His most important novels include Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons, and The Brothers Karamazov. Our quote today comes again from The Brothers Karamazov. That's the focus of our instant classic this week, and take a look at that quote. This is Dmitry Karamazov. He is one of the main characters. He's one of the three brothers Karamazov. He's going to find himself in jail and over philosophical issues. And while he's talking to his brother, Dmitry Karamazov admits one great problem he has with the idea of God in this ever more atheist materialist culture. Dmitry says, "It's God, Dmitry," he says to Alyosha, his brother. "It's God that's worrying me. That's the only thing that's worrying me. What if he doesn't exist? What if Rakitin's right, that it's an idea made up by men? Then if God doesn't exist, man is the king of the earth, of the universe. Magnificent, only how is man going to be good without God? That's the question. I always come back to that. Who is man going to love then? To whom will man be thankful? To whom will he sing the hymn?" Rakitin laughs. Rakitin says that one can love humanity instead of God. Well, only an idiot can maintain that. I can't understand it. And this is a powerful, powerful idea. To this day, modern progressives sneer at religion and believe that godlessness and moral virtue don't need to go together. I would just, for your consideration, submit the following. Ever since God began to wane seriously in Western culture, let's call it the end of the 19th century, after the works of Marx, after the works of Darwin. By the end of the 19th century, God was really on the ropes. By the time of World War I, when the headline was God is dead, as war was declared, between 1900 and 1920 and 2021, socialism has killed more people than any other human phenomenon. And what does socialism have as its key tenet? There is no God. I would suggest that there could be no socialism without atheism, and that the government that arose, the one form of government that did arise, that we never had before, out of godlessness, was socialism. Socialism, then, is the greatest killer of the last 125 years. So maybe it is absolutely true what Dmitry says, that without God, you're going to get a lot more socialism and a lot more genocide.
Those are the stories for today. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it into the mailbag by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org. And if you enjoy our content, please support our show by joining the Patriot Club. Your tax-deductible donation keeps us going. Simply visit patriotclub.us, that's patriotclub.us, and get signed up. And of course, as a special thank you, we will ship you our brand new American Patriot tumbler, or maybe two of them. And maybe they would both have George Washington on them.
And that wraps up our show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends, and get yourself a tumbler.